Good evening, everyone. Welcome, Steve. How are you? It is the first annual, which I don't even know. You can't even say annual yet, but the first time I think we're going to do this. This is going to be an ongoing thing. I think we can do this once a year, and we can have our Festivus bitch fest about the games industry because they deserve it. Let's just be honest. I'm just moving some stuff around here. I kind of thought we'd jump in and we'll do some voting, right? We've got the Steam Awards we can vote on, but I think there's other votes that we can do and kind of complain a little bit about like the games industry. Kind of go through, the top issues that happened this year, kind of maybe our dislike of certain publishers, maybe even cover over the games we felt shouldn't be in the Games of the Year awards or things like that, right? Like in general, let's just get it out before the holiday. It's going to start tomorrow. I know everybody's going to take some time off. There'll be some, I don't know, maybe we'll have less of a game-related holiday than most. I don't know. It's going to be a little bit up and down, but I think it'll be good to get everybody to have a little bit of time to just complain. And I hope everybody joins in, because it's not just going to be me, but we will go through it. We'll go through the games, and then I think we'll call it an evening. We'll throw up some polls. I do have that in front of me. Can I run it? I don't know if I can run it from my laptop or if I have to run it from here. I think I have to run it from here. I think that's kind of how it works. Yeah, so I'm going to probably have to put this up here. I hope everybody's having a good beginning of the holiday. This is just for fun, too. So mostly in jest. Let's just say that. Oh, that's okay, that's what we need there. So yes, I can run the polls. So let's jump in. I think probably what we want to do is take a look at, and I should turn my microphone. Hang on, because I had planned to kind of be at an angle tonight. I'm using a different camera so I can actually look at chat and things like that. I hadn't done this in a while, and this is my Krampus cat right here. Oh, he's got a hold of me. This is Yoda. He is a sphinx. He's purring. He's happy that we're doing this. He likes to complain. All right, Krampus. Yeah. Put him over on the bed. But yeah, let's jump in. So I don't know if everybody went through and kind of looked at, the biggest issues, or if you even remember them, right? Not everything is easily remembered, but, I think one of the bigger things this year was the loss of, certain games industry what would you call them? Games industry veterans, not just in the developer space. Yeah, that he is adorable. He's a good cat. He's right over here. He's just kind of laying on the bed now. But yeah, I like Yoda. He's been here since probably COVID. I think he showed up like 2 months before COVID happened, or shutdown and all that stuff. And he became my buddy. So he's really good. But he'll be back. He's probably going to be on the desk here in a minute. He doesn't usually get in here, but he's in here tonight. So I think one of the things is the massive spends, right? She's a fat cat. What kind of cat is she, Steve? Is she like a hair cat instead of a bald cat? But is she like a Persian or something like that? I think one of the big things, though, is, kind of the massive amount of spend, right, we're seeing in the games industry. And it's kind of nutty, especially when you have instances like Concord, right? We remember that Sony dropped a lot of money, 400,000, 500, or 400 million is the high estimate. Some people were saying like 200 million. Oh, Calico, very nice. I like Calico cats. They're cute. And with 200 million, I mean, it's rough to say, but 400 million, you wonder where all the money went, right? In that sense. So that was one of the bigger things I think that we saw this year. And it's not just Sony. Sony did some of that, but in general, it's a lot of the industry. They spend a ton of money on projects that go nowhere and are being crushed and kind of killed off. And this isn't just big companies. This is medium-sized developers with medium-sized publishers. And the publisher kind of gets halfway there. They don't want to spend the money, and they just like really start to push back on everything, and the game comes out and it's lackluster. It happens a lot with MMOs. So kind of that's not normally like it's a theme every year, but it's not so noticeable except for like something like Concord, right? When they drop that. But, you know, there's still a lot of games, and we can see that in the Steam Awards here, that are not like that, right? If we go down, we'll start at the bottom, I think. So that's like one of the first grievances is the amount of money spent. And like the games we're looking at here, if we take a look at the Sit Back and Relax Award, I wouldn't say these are necessarily all indie devs, but they're pretty close, right? The Farm Simulator folks, they're a little bit bigger. They've been doing this, but they look for publishers. I talked to those guys when they wanted to do like an MMO game. Yeah, Concord was something. X-Defiant both did terrible. I mean, I don't even know if they did anything. They didn't have time to... Well, Concord for sure didn't really have time to do anything, right, in that sense. So I think that it's just quick triggers, bad decision, bad planning, right? Especially with the crutch of the games as a service component. Everybody wants to do that. And the reason is they want to spend less to continue to play longer, right? Like that's kind of the standard. And you know that. It's more like they just want to sit there, spend $200 million, and for 10 years be able to live off that, spending minimal amounts annually. So they don't have to go back in every year and spend the $200 million, right? Like it's a cost savings with a reasonable expectation. If you have a good loop, you've got good, strong, supporters, audience, community managers, things like that. All of those guys are going to make a huge difference. But if you don't, obviously, it's a fool's errand. And I think a lot of this was planned out to be like every game, not every game, but 70% of Sony's portfolio, not just Sony, but a lot of bigger companies, they were looking at like, okay, we're going to make up that 70% in X amount of revenues, sorry, not just portfolio, but revenues in these games as a service, so we don't have to spend so much. But I think consumers are pretty much fed up with it at this point, right? Like Destiny's survived for 10 years. Bungie is just now getting absorbed even more into Sony. I think there was an article just the other day that came out that they were getting, their biz dev team, I think, and maybe business initiatives and things like that were getting absorbed. So more of the company of Bungie is going into Sony, which means like they're getting more control, and they're probably going to like slow down on a lot of these things that they were planning to do, kind of to mimic Destiny. They're going to limit that, and maybe even Destiny in general. I know there's a mobile game out there for it that's in beta or alpha, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking at that going, okay, it's either going to make or break this company in terms of like the next 10 years or, however long they have. I think it's just going to be one of those big components that they can't have maybe two, they can have one, where Sony was thinking, well, we'll have them have 4, which I think was the last number I heard, 4 or 5 games as a service games, which is kind of ridiculous for one developer to run, right, in that sense. Even though they're big and they're experienced, it just seems ridiculous. So I think what we're looking at is moving away from that a little bit, and hopefully in 2025 getting out of the spend business on games that are not going to produce, either for you or for the company, right? I think that that's going to be kind of like a slowdown that we're going to see. And I'm sure that Rockstar is looking at this very closely. What they were going to do with GTA 6 is probably being slightly adjusted. And while it still may have a lot of the components, or it still may have, a massive online like GTA 5 does, it could potentially have a different path for how they're going to want to monetize everything too. So spend, we'll probably see that go down. We're not going to see as many companies being acquired either, hopefully by Microsoft, because that's another thing. Microsoft has just really screwed the industry up. Hands down, their management, their leadership, everybody over there needs to go. And that's not like a mean thing to Phil or any of those people. It's just they've been doing it too long. They need to go. They need to reevaluate the assets they have, condense, consolidate, maybe do more layoffs, because that's going to be part of it, which is another thing that we got to complain about. But in general, they need to stop buying the games industry just to try to own that, that experience, because they're not doing it. It's not working out for them well. While Game Pass is probably doing well, what I know of, the experience I have with game developers, when you're in Game Pass, it's fantastic. When you're not there, it's a different story. I had a conversation with a guy two years ago, I think, at GDC. It might have been 3 at this point. I'm trying to think back how long ago. It might have been 3 GDCs ago. And welcome, Lowrat. How are you, man? No longer Xbox exclusive. Yeah. Hey, how are you, man? Good to see you. As a way to get more revenue for MS Games. Yeah, it makes sense, right? Like being able to get their games out, obviously. Call of Duty being in that category. I think also, the lessons learned, they have to pay a little bit more to get better exclusives as well for like Game Pass and stuff like that. And I'm not sure if it goes that way. I know it's them, but I'm not sure what they're doing with the exclusives on Game Pass. Having a conversation 3 years ago at like GDC with and this is not anything against the guy. He was just younger. He hadn't been in the games industry long. He was an accountant. And we were at just an event. I think it was one of the women in gaming event or something like that. They were holding it at a bar. And the guy, I want to say I know where he worked. And it was one of the larger indie publishers. But it wasn't one that I'd want to name because I don't know what his job, how much he was supposed to say. But anyhow, he was sitting there talking about like how good the game was and it did in Game Pass. And I kind of sat there and listened to him. And I asked him at the end of it, I said, well, after it's out of Game Pass, how is the game done? And you just saw like all the life in his face go away. Like he was not in this. Like there was no money after this game got out of Game Pass. People were not upgrading. People weren't adding the DLCs and stuff like that. So while the money in Game Pass is good, it's feast or famine, right? On Xbox, right? In that sense. Has not been buying devs. They've been buying publishers, big ones. And it only makes sense to get those games everywhere in order to make their money. Yeah, Press Start wants, there's 2 different ways to look at that, right? They've been removing publishers that would have been able to work with everybody across the industry. They now kind of control that, and they did buy developers. Obsidian was a developer, not a publisher. So they have bought developers, right? And Obsidian was a good example of one. Rare was another one. There's other ones, right? Like it's not just they're buying publishers in that sense. But I do agree, like, hey, that's one of the things. They're doing that to make money. And ultimately Microsoft's strategy is to keep it all in-house, right? Like they've wanted to control the industry. They've done a couple of things. Like on the casual space, they've really become an owner of that. They should buy some companies like Big Fish and that. I know maybe it's not the biggest topic here, but in terms of casual gaming, Big Fish, there's not too many left, but those types of companies, they should take those in-house because their demographic, Microsoft's demographic, has aged considerably. Like they're now in that 70 range, 60 to 70 range, right? Like people have grown up. They play games. They've also migrated to mobile during COVID and the transition there. But I mean, ultimately, their folks have aged. Hey, Steve, no problem. Come back whenever you got time. Being that that's the case, they do see a really good stance on like Windows Store. Sorry, I forgot what the name of it was. The Windows Store built into Microsoft's Windows that does really good business with the casual game space, right? They actually have a good audience for that. Windows Store does not have any audience for core gaming. Microsoft's really wanted that. Now, that's not necessarily. Oh, thank you for the cheer. Appreciate it. Low Red. Thanks, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, dude. But, you know, in that sense, like Microsoft has got a good stance there. They've wanted to have a stance where Steam resides, right? Like Steam here is what they really want because that's a lot of money for them. And that's what they've kind of made headway on the, you know, the Game Pass side. But Game Pass works in a different way. It's like betting, like Netflix, betting future revenues on current user base. Does that make sense? Unless you're growing that user base, you're not going to gain those revenues to be able to pay for everything that you've written. It's essentially the checks your ass can't cash in the future. How far is Netflix in debt? Now, granted, Netflix has plenty of money coming in, but I mean, at one point, they were into $50 billion or something like that in you know, investment in their content. And they have to make that up. Microsoft, they've got the money. There's no doubt about that. But that division doesn't have that money. Microsoft as a whole has that money. The division is on loan. And as any like CEO that I've ever dealt with said, hey, if I'm going to give you $1, I expect $3 in return. And I don't think they're seeing that. I don't think they've seen that yet. I don't think it's even been profitable yet. And it's an expensive business. And if you don't cut the right deal, you're not going to be able to like make that adjustment to profit. If you don't make the right deal in the other way, you're not going to get the games that you need on the platform. So what do? Well, you take, as we've talked, spend the money to buy big games, publishers, developers, bring them in-house so you're not paying out and you're paying that off in a different way. It's a tough thing to say. When you spend $70 billion or something, the mothership demands return on Xbox hardware alone cannot provide. That's what you're saying. Okay, that's all I'm saying. It makes sense they need to get games everywhere. They do. I'm not arguing with that. I agree with you. Like, they can't be exclusive on that platform for sure. They cannot make it just on their platform. I 100% agree with you, no doubt. I think they had to make that transition. The problem, I think, is they make less money when they do that than they were. They were making less money regardless. They got to pay a piece to somebody, right? Eventually, they're going to have to pay percentages, whether it's 30% to Steam, if they put Xbox, and let's just say like, what would you call it? What's the word? Why can't I think of it right now? I'm talking too much. A speculation. Let's just make a speculation. We'll use that word. Say Steam puts it on there. They start selling Xbox. They're going to have to pay 30%. This is the Apple developer dilemma. Or let's just say this is the music industry dilemma with Apple. Everything is 30%. Steam, everything is 30%. Yeah, there's Epic, and they have a little bit less percentage, but there's still a percentage that you've got to pay. You're not getting 100% of that now. You're having to spend 30% of that to get to a larger mass, and that mass better be able to subsidize what you're spending, right? In that sense. They better be there to spend money and buy into what you're selling. So while I don't discount that Game Pass does big numbers, I do discount that the profitability is there. Even as they expand, there's going to be a challenge. They haven't been able to, like some of the deals, if we look back a couple years ago when that leaked of what they were potentially cutting deals for, there were large spends on that. And to get like a timed exclusive on GTA 6, if they really wanted that, which would make all the difference in the world. Not that Rockstar would ever do that, but that would make all the difference in the world. We're talking billions and billions of dollars. That's what they're going to have to put out there against, obviously that division. iRoomist, welcome. So, whether you agree with that or not, I'd love to hear everybody talk about it. I'd love to hear comments. I could be wrong completely. I don't really see it as any other method. And I think, obviously they've been shutting down divisions, not divisions, people within there. They've been removing groups out of the Microsoft business backend. But I don't know. We'll see what 2025 brings us. But definitely hardware, I agree with you. Hardware is not a thing anymore for them. They're going to have to spread those wings and go in other directions to be able to cover this, for sure. No doubt. Okay, so I think we should vote on our first 2024 award. I vote. You guys vote yourself, right? Everybody has access to this on Steam. It's called the 2024 Steam Awards. But I think we'll start with the bottom for me, and then we'll go up from there. So sit back and relax. Now, a lot of these we were saying are indie style games. And as I mentioned, I'd worked with at least discussed with the farming simulator folks, the ideas of like, hey, taking and doing an MMO style game out there, right? Of farming, where there was some cool ideas. You would have economies that would be impacted, like every country would have their own economy in this MMO, and like everybody would be engaged with it. There's some smart engineers that were coming up with ideas. They didn't go with it ultimately, as far as I know. This was a couple of years ago. But it's not necessarily a small indie group. They actually have considerable revenues, and ever since they went to console, they've been doing really well. The most of these other guys, outside of House Flipper, I think, they're pretty much, really small shops. TCG is really like an asset flip, I guess, in a sense. Not necessarily their assets, but, Unity assets or something like that. Welcome back, Steve. Mako Eyes, how are you? I think Tiny Glade, let me grab my charger. It's almost dead here. My laptop battery is dying. I didn't notice that. Tiny Glade was one that I did a while ago. Well, not a while ago, a couple weeks ago, months ago, maybe a month ago. Tiny Glade was very interesting. It's a beautiful game. It's done very well. They were getting it optimized for like Steam Deck and portable stuff, but it really is it doesn't take a lot, right, to run the game. I think that one really had me hooked. Now, there's this web fishing, and granted, I haven't played web fishing. I could imagine it being good because there's tons of people that have played this game, but I didn't have a chance to play that. Out of all the 5 there, I did have a chance to play the others. And in my personal opinion, I really like TCG Card Shop, but I think I'll like it more in the future. You did vote for TCG, Steve? Okay, so the only one you voted for out of those 5. Okay, fair enough. Like I said, I like TCG. I think that game did extremely well, right, in that sense. I think it'll be really cool next year if they do follow through with their plans of adding in like an actual card game to it, like a component where Steve and I could play based upon the deck of cards we've built, based upon, the packs that we've opened and stuff like that. I think that's a really cool component. You haven't played the farming sim? Yeah, it is really good. Lowrad, you voted for Farming Sim 2025. Fair enough, man. I like it. Like I said, if you're looking at these games in terms of time spent, I would probably say that you're going to get the bang for your buck is probably going to be Farming Simulator or Tiny Glade. Maybe not even Tiny Glade. Tiny Glade's like one you'd kick back, right? You can't vote on this? I thought everybody can vote on Steam Awards. Did you have to participate? You might have had to participate. It's possible. Yeah, press start once. I think it is. Although there's, there are, and just a counterpoint, there are a fair amount of games like Tiny Glade coming out. I get a lot of them. Devs are kicking those over just like they were with the Bullet Hell games, right? Like the Bullet Hell roguelikes, they were coming fast and furious this year. And that could be another grievance, right? Like the indie trend is to follow the leader. And when Vampire Survivor hit, man, the indies came out of the woodwork with bullet hell roguelikes. I mean, I know I played somewhere up to 60 or 70 myself over the past year. I want to say that. Maybe a year and a half. Because Vampire Survivor came out like a year and a half ago. Something like that. But fantastic game. I agree, Lowred. Fantastic game. Vampire Survivor. But man, not copycats. I don't want to say copycat because that's demeaning, I think, into the industry, because you can have clones and they can all have kind of their own unique style. But like, man, they came out of the woodwork, and now this kind of casual like city builder is also loading up just the same, right? It's just continuing to grow. I agree with that too. Yeah, the Balatro, I'm calling them Casino Light games, are definitely starting to bloat as well. Like they're coming out of the woodwork just the same. Yeah, no doubt. But I do agree here. I think that Tiny Glade was a standout. That, as you can see, was my nomination to begin with. I'd probably stick with that because I really liked that game. I thought it was really, really decent. All of these games look good, Steve. Yeah, no doubt. I think they do. The only one, like I said, I don't have any experience with right now is web fishing, but I'm going to try that before the end of the year. And although I'd probably think twice about this, I'm going to probably throw a vote in on Tiny Glade. I really do like that game. I think it did really well. It's a beautiful little game. And it is like one of those ones, like you could see an entire part of like the streaming, well, I guess it'd be streamer audience, and maybe doing this now over on Twitch, but you could see kind of like a casual, like city builder, just chatting type component. It's almost like Legos, right? In that sense, I could definitely see that growing, and there's a lot of them out there. Technotopia, which I just checked out from Alawar, I think it was, that's very similar to that, although it's a little bit more cyberpunk kind of thing, a little bit more rougher around the edges, not as cute and casual, but it's very similar, right, in that sense. So there's a lot of them coming out. So I definitely think we'll see a good many of that, along with the Balatro, like Casino Light clones. You know, it's kind of off topic, but how does Indiana Jones run on the deck? It ran, let's just say that. It actually wasn't doing too bad. It was running better on the Steam Deck than it was on the Legion Go at the beginning. I think that changed now because there was an AMD update for the Legion Go in terms of the graphics card, well, the unified chipset. And I think that might be different. I haven't had a chance to check it out since being on the road, but I will check that out for you. I'll let you know. But at one point, the Steam Deck was running better, and that was like literally launch day. But I think it's maybe been adjusted with that update on the Legion Go. But yeah, very nice. And thank you for the Twitch Prime subscription, Lowrad. Appreciate it, man. But yeah, that's going to be my vote for that one. We'll move on to the next. I think this one's going to be probably a little... Now, we're going up, right? So we're starting at the bottom and going up. I think this is going to be a little bit of a contention here. And feel free to throw your vote in there. Just throw it into chat. Let me know what you were thinking for the Outstanding Story-Rich Game Award. If you got a chance to vote on it, also throw what you thought or what you wanted to see in there. You've been playing way too much of it on Xbox. You beat it once in your second playthrough already. That's great. I haven't even gotten through it. I would love to check the whole game out. I will definitely do that here, hopefully in the next week. Be able to jump in and check more of it out because it did seem really good, especially once you got to the open world. You haven't played any of them, Laura? Oh, come on, man. I would have thought that you might have jumped in on the Ghost of Tsushima. Octon Zaboom, thank you for the Twitch Prime. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'll tell you here in my purview of this, right? Like, and just the 5 here. Now, I didn't vote for any of these ones. I can't remember what my vote was, but let me enter Grievance on Steam. What I'd like to see them do is have a little pop out here on the right-hand side or left, I don't care, right or left, that would say like, hey, here's what you voted for that didn't make it. Because I can't remember what I voted for in this category. Because you get to vote for like any game on Steam. It'd be nice, you know, down here, they tell you like, you nominated this game and my vote went in for this. It should say like, here are the nominees and here's the nominee that you voted for that didn't make it, or something to that effect, right? That would just pop out when you hovered over it. Because I'd like to remember what I put in for that. I can't remember off the top of my head. At least right now I can't. If I do, I'll definitely throw it out there. Sorry, I had to sneeze. I haven't tried Star Trucker. Is that any good? Any stalker that auto-corrected to... Oh, okay, you'd put yours in. Barely played... And what'd you say? Barely played Stalker, but it's the one that I've played, so it does get your vote. Okay, yeah. And fair enough. It's a very, very good game. You like the... I've seen people play Star Trucker. I haven't gotten a chance to play it myself. Stranded, Alien Dawn, I played that. Satisfactory, I think I have Satisfactory. It was a while ago I played that. Where you're like building the... It's like first person, you're building the conveyor belt system. Like, what do they call that? Manufacturing? I forget what the name of that category is. Oh, I can't think of it. Yeah, I think I have Satisfactory. I haven't played it much, though. I didn't get it. Factory Automation, that's it. Yep. Yeah, I like those. I really haven't gotten into them like I did with some of the other kind of categories. For sure. That's like one that I have stepped over. I haven't really like checked it out too much. But the Star Trucker, I thought that was pretty interesting. And I know like, you've had, how many hours did you have an American Trucker? What was it? Is it American Trucker? Because there was Euro Trucker and American Trucker, I think it is. Yeah, those can take... I've seen people with the rigs and all of that stuff take considerable amount of time. I think here, in this category, let me move it down a little bit more so we can see it again. I think in Outstanding Story-Rich Game Award, a couple things went into my consideration in this. And I funny enough, I didn't think about it, or again, my nominee is not here for whatever I nominated. I can't remember. But if I was to look at this and kind of go story rich kind of like plays into like the story's depth as well as the presentation, right? In that sense. American Truck Sim, that's it. And you have hundreds. Yeah, I knew you had hundreds of hours in it. I kind of figured that's where you were because at the time we were talking about it was like you were playing it every night, as far as I remember. You've got like 6 hours in, Steve. Yeah, Low Red, he's a big fan of it. It's definitely worth it. Did you get like any of the DLCs, Steve? I know, Low Red, you probably got a few, if not all of them. I don't know if you still continue to play American Truck Sim, but man, they've started to put out like almost every state. It's crack. Yeah, just pure crack. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. That's why they want you hooked on it. Oh, did my music quit? I think it did. Did it? No, it's still going. It's just quiet. Yeah, what I was saying on the Outstanding Story Rich, I think it's both the depth of the story as well as the presentation. And while I think all of these, present well, and Stalker very much leans to like some of my favorite games that I love. Fallout, for example, especially better shooting. Mouthwashing, I kind of found interesting because that's from Critical Reflex, which I had a chance to play the game before it launched because I met him at PAX here in Seattle. And I thought it was interesting and it had an interesting component to it, but it's very short, right? In the sense of like the other games that are here. The other games that are here are all 30 plus hours. Black Myth may be close, maybe a little bit less, but you're definitely looking at games that are a little bit lengthier. So I kind of think, not that that means like anything bad, but it's easy to hook people for 2 hours. People can sit down and play, but for people to finish these other games, I think it's a little bit more demanding of like the story and the writers and like the engagement. Doesn't mean it's better. Doesn't mean that it's a longer story makes a better game. But I think, mouthwashing is pretty short in that sense. So what I'm thinking here, and Stalker, again, good. Maybe a little bit more because it's written in a way where you kind of choose your path. Black Myth, I just didn't get into the story so much. Final Fantasy has lost me on a lot of their games in terms of like the story fantasy world. Final Fantasy 7 I'm sticking with, but Final Fantasy 16 I wasn't really super excited about. Ghost of Tsushima, when you pair Ghost of Tsushima with the ability to create the environment of a black and white Japanese samurai film, along with the sounds, along with everything that went into the game, the storyline itself, the strife with the colony, the father, being taken over their island as it was, being attacked, basically the country being assaulted, right, in that sense, and like having to kind of go out there. I kind of think like the whole package, Ghost of Tsushima, plays really well, and that's pulling me towards that one, if that makes sense. It's not just story is one component of a rich experience. I think there's the story, and then there's rich experience, which is everything around kind of what goes into the story. All of these titles have proper stories really well, but really positive experience across the board. But I think Ghost of Tsushima definitely does a little bit extra to kind of get you there if you take advantage of it. Some people like to see all the color and all the, keep it in the English subtitles and English language. If you put it into the Japanese language and throw black and white filters on it and for me, I'd need the English subtitles to understand. It definitely is a true experience to see that. I think it is pretty impressive in that sense. All the trucker game, the American trucker game, sorry, I didn't see that, is a lifestyle, not just a game. I can see that. 700 hours, all states right now. Is it basically, press start once, is it west of the Mason-Dixon that they've done? Right? Is that how it goes? West of the Mississippi. Sorry. West of the Mississippi. Is it, is that basically all the states they've done so far? I can't remember. I know they got Washington. Obviously, I live up here. I know they got like Oregon, Arizona, I think Nevada. I didn't know if they did California. I think they did Alaska, maybe Idaho, Utah. I don't remember hearing Texas. They might have done like Nebraska, maybe Montana. Man, I don't know. You don't have to sit there and count, roll them all off, but it seems like it's basically any state west of like the Mississippi they've really gotten into. Arkansas is as far as they've headed east. Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's pretty good. Next is Missouri, Iowa, and Louisiana. Okay. That'd be cool. I like Louisiana. I could definitely see that one being interesting. I've actually driven a big RV through from Seattle down through, where did we go? We went through some of Oregon, Idaho, into Utah, down into Nevada, right? Is that how we went? Then Nevada, then down to like Arizona, New Mexico. What is Four Corners? New Mexico. Is New Mexico, Arizona? Is it Utah and Nevada? Is that the Four Corners? I can't remember. Yeah, we hit that. Then we cut across and went through New Mexico, through Texas, into Louisiana. Was it Arkansas? Into Arkansas just a bit, and then into Louisiana. And then we like went to New Orleans. And then we went all the way into Florida, stayed at like Orlando at like the Disneyland thing or Disney World. And then we went north through like Atlanta, well, Georgia, up through North Dakota or North Carolina or South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, cut across like Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, right in that tri-state area, and then Ohio, and then went back across like the top. So like, was it Illinois, Indiana, Michigan? No, Indiana, Illinois, up into Minnesota, South Dakota, Montana, all the way back home. Yeah, kind of crazy. I've done like a loop of the U.S., which was nuts. You've been hoping for Tennessee? I could see that. I've never been to Tennessee. Well, I think we did hit that. I can't remember. We didn't stop. Let's just say that. It was a haul. Yeah, that was like one of the ones where I took a month and went on vacation. Like kind of, it wasn't a sabbatical, but shit, it was as long as it was. It was a long time. It was a lot of driving. It was fun. Yeah, I'd never do that again, but it was something to remember. It was like as close as you could get to being a trucker without having to worry about anything. Right? Like you could just sleep, pull on the side of the road, go stay somewhere else. You didn't have to worry about getting anything anywhere. But it was the one that I had at that time with the Jeep that we were towing behind it. It was like 60 foot long. Yeah, it was kind of nuts. It was something. But anyhow, back to the voting. So I think for the Outstanding Story Award, I got to vote for Ghost. I think it just really was a full package. If you really took advantage of it, you threw all the stuff on, it's an amazing experience, especially if you have like the hardware to run it, right, in that sense. They have 3 full teams working on states, 2 on new states, 1 team reworking older states and updating them. That's impressive. I like to hear that. Now, do you know that, are they going to do, like the team that's reworking the older states, are they going to just include that as updates, or are they going to, basically have like a remaster, right? Like, we'll say like Washington State remaster or something like that. I don't know what they would call it, but highway, what do they call that? Like the barrel build or whatever, where they're improving the highway system. Because I think they missed a little bit in Washington. You can come across Highway 2, which is right where I live, through the mountains, through Cascades and all that. But like, there's a lot that you bypass through. It's very short. I was wondering if they would ever adjust that. Reworks are all free. That's pretty impressive. Oh yeah, that's right. You did get, that's not is that still your gaming laptop? Or is that did you buy a new PC build, Lowrad? Or did you build a new PC rig? Yeah, like if you've got we'll say a 3060, I don't know if it had ray tracing in. I can't remember. 3080 might be the like for like highest settings or whatever. But I think a 3060 probably does really well with Ghost. You went in with the tower build. Okay, very cool. They do it with their Europe games as well. They just finished California. Oh, wow. I'll have to check that out. I have the game. I haven't checked out California. I know that the European one, I got really into that like, is it 8 years ago? You went with a 4090? Yeah, you got plenty of power. It'll look amazing. You can definitely run that at 120, 144 hertz, whatever kind of monitor you have, TV, and run it full blown spec. And like I said, it looks beautiful with the colors, but the ability to kind of throw on the Japanese voice actors and that like black and white film filter, it's just fantastic with that game. It just changes the whole experience. Oh, you went with an ultra wide? They may even have ultra wide support because I think Sony is one of the companies that's like all in on ultra wide. I know a lot of their games support ultra wide. So that's awesome. Very sweet. Okay. Let's see. What other things are we looking at? Oh, the music. Best soundtrack. Man, if you would have said, like, what's the best soundtrack when Frostpunk came out, the original one, I would have been all over it because I think that their composers, I think it was two composers, maybe it is just one, on the original Frostpunk, did a fantastic job. You can actually get the Frostpunk soundtrack on like Apple Music for free, you know, if you subscribe to that. I think even on Amazon, if you have Amazon Music, maybe even on Google Music. Fantastic, very haunting soundtrack. Red Dead, fully agree. Silent Hill. The original Silent Hill games are more memorable for me on the soundtracks, but I did like this one. Everybody's kind of going on Silent Hill. Yeah. Silent Hill or RDR. And granted, like RDR is a remaster. It's not even a remaster. Let's just say that. It's not. It's just like a game made to run on a PC with proper PC toggles. That's really what it is. And for anybody that's wondering, I know I've mentioned I worked in Low Rad, worked on Fate as well. This is not the Fate that we were a part of. This is a different Fate. This is Fate RPG. I often wondered how that ever worked out with that brand, if like trademarks and things like that. I don't think there ever was a dispute. I never heard of any. I would promote it as just regular Fate. I know Low Red did. And it was, yeah, it's not the Fate that we're talking about. But I've never played these Fate games, so I don't know anything about their soundtrack. It kind of surprised me seeing it there. Just thinking about like all of the other games that I did play this year, I was like, oh, this is really good. So I got to imagine it's pretty good. But I think I've got to go with like Silent Hill as well. I think on this one, like I said, the original Frostpunk, it would have taken it for me. Frostpunk 2, good. I think there's something it's missing from, not necessarily missing, but like I think that maybe it's too familiar, right, in that sense. And I think Silent Hill really did a good job with that. Oh, sorry, I thought somebody was knocking. But yeah, I do give it to Silent Hill on that. Red Dead Redemption, really good, but it's all been done before. It wasn't any different. They just basically took the exact same game and just made it run with the ability to toggle things on and off for PC. Maybe they upped the ability for graphics or for like texture, assets, things like that. But I don't know. I don't really think they did. I think it was just basically do the bare minimum, put the game out, and just give the people that have never had an Xbox or PS3 or, maybe maybe they were never console players, the ability to play this really good game. Yeah, I got a chance. Have you played the Fate Reawaken? The demo? It's not bad. It's pretty good. I haven't had a chance to really dig into it. It was just a demo. They had it at PAX. But I didn't get a chance to really sit down too long with it. And playing the demo, it was pretty bare bones. I think in the next Steam Fest is it February? I think it's February. That's probably when the demo will be back up. is sometime in February. It might be like early February for the Steam Fest. So I'm pretty sure they'll have it up by then if they haven't already launched the game. I don't know when the launch is for Fate Reawaken. Anybody that's curious, Fate is not the Fate that you see on the screen here. Fate is a Wild Tangent game from back in the day of like, I think mid 2000s was when it kind of had its heyday. A lot of people that really liked the game were probably 8 to 12, but in one case there was a guy probably in his 60s that was a really big fan of it. He was a pretty good guy. I don't think he's with us any longer, but he what was his name? We did a sale specifically for him on Steam. I can't remember his name. It's still on the Fate page. That was one that Lowrad and I did where we basically, a kid had talked about his grandfather, that Fate was his favorite game, and he took a picture of him and threw it up on Reddit, and the thing took off, and I reached out to him. This is during COVID, and we were talking about it, and we put it on sale on Wild Tangent, and then we put it on sale on Steam, and we sent the granddad over to like all the other Fate games because there was 3 more. It was his grandpa introduced his grandson to Fate. That's what it was. Yep. Hey, Fixstar, Merry Christmas. How are you? And why can't I think of the name? The guy's name. Anyhow, he was 92, I think, at that point, and this was like 4 years ago. So yeah, he really enjoyed it, and I think that Reddit post got like 180,000 upvotes, 200,000 upvotes, something like that. It did really well, and we threw it on sale for like 79 cents, just because it was for his birthday. Because we said basically we want everybody to have the game so they can see what he's talking about, and it worked out really well. So I'm going to vote. I think I'm going to throw my vote on Silent Hill 2 because I really do enjoy that soundtrack. I do have some of the Silent Hills on vinyl. Like I said, I think I have a little bit more. Leroy was his name. Leroy Sale. I don't know why when I saw your name in the text, like the cool story about the 90-year-old, his name was Leroy. I don't know why it came to mind, but yeah, the Leroy Sale. That's what we called it on Steam. It was funny. But the older Silent Hills, I have a really fun idea for, the soundtrack, and I like the new one too. So I'm with you guys. The best game you suck at. This one gets tough because they got like fighting games, and nobody's ever really good at. Well, some people are good at fighting games, but not everybody, right? So I think everybody kind of like can say like, okay, Tekken probably. Dragon Ball, probably. The Finals is an interesting game. I sucked at it. I can tell you that. I don't think it was like a game that I like that I sucked at. It wasn't a bad game. It's not a game that I really cared for too much. Black Myth Wukong, I mean, I don't have any problem with it. It's a good game. I don't think Ghost should be in this. Because Ghost, it's hard, but it's not like Dark Souls hard, right? It's a pretty comfortable experience. It's pretty fun. It's equally balanced, and you can adjust it a lot. Silent Hill is the best out of that in terms of soundtrack. Yeah, I like Silent Hill on that. But yeah, I think here, it definitely goes to something that I really enjoy playing, but I cannot really do well in it. And ultimately, I can get through like Ghost, I did on PlayStation, and on like Black Myth, I don't have a problem with it. It's just, you take a little bit more time on certain bosses. But like, it would probably be one of these 3, the Finals, Dragon Ball Z, or Tekken, because you really never finish the game since there's so much of it based upon playing other players, right? That's what I thought, Steve. Like the Finals it looked cool. It's a cool idea. It just doesn't live up to it, in my opinion, if that makes sense. I agree with you. Yeah. It just doesn't really make up to what I thought. Although I can see why people would like that. And there's a lot of cool components to it, but it just was not one that I was like jumping all over, kind of going like, yeah, this is really what I want. I would think mine in Dragon Ball, I'm not a huge Dragon Ball fan, so it doesn't hold my attention as much. I think if you're a Dragon Ball fan, that's a different story. It's probably going to. Yeah, Tekken, I agree. I mean, if you really want to get... Tekken 8 is really good. I think overall, Tekken 8 is a really solid fighting game. Like, it was between like... And you have to like fighting games, number one, which a lot of people will play them, like you're saying, all right, like a button masher. But I mean, like, to get really good at them, it's a lot of dedication, or you end up like watching a lot of videos and you learn the patterns, right? I'm not a pattern player. I'm not really good at them either. So that's probably a stance of saying you should be a pattern player. But Tekken went up against like Street Fighter 6. What were some, well, Dragon Ball Z, I guess you could kind of say like that's a fighting game. I was trying to think of anything else that came out in that category. Mortal Kombat 1, but that I don't know anybody that really cares for Mortal Kombat 1 all that much. But like Tekken 8, yeah. I mean, I think Tekken 8 is a pretty good game, and I'm never going to be any good at it. That's just the way it is. I just don't have the time. You'd have to play it daily for hours, right? Against players that are equally matched, and then progressively go up that salmon ladder of like step, plateau, step, plateau, step, plateau, until you get like to whatever it is, diamond, or I forget what the kind of breaks are. Soul Calibur would be good, Mako. No doubt. I like Soul Calibur. Oops. The music did play previous. There we go. Soul Calibur. What were some of the other ones? There were some interesting ones that were lesser known. What's the... Because Soul Calibur was Dreamcast. What's the one I'm thinking of from PlayStation? Tobal, which was like one of the first 3D fighters. That was kind of interesting. That was a Square Soft at the time, Square Enix now. Not really a great one, but for PlayStation players, if you guys played on the original PlayStation, it was a good game. It was fun. I enjoyed it because it was really early on and all of that, and there wasn't much like it. I'm trying to think of any other ones that I've really... Mortal Kombat's always been a favorite. Actually, I don't mind Multiverses, but I know a lot of people aren't into that one as much because it's like a Smash clone and it's a different type of fighter. Eternal Champions was really good too. Yeah, if you go back to like the 16-bit days, for sure. That was big. I don't know if there was any bigger game at that time outside of Street Fighter. That was really popular. But yeah, I mean, for me, in terms of best games that you suck at, I'd probably say Tekken 8. I'm going to vote for that one. This is the more innovative one. And Satisfactory does hit this one. We were just talking about that, Lowrad. What's going on with my playlist? It's not working. Hang on. Let me fix it. I'm going to do it this way. There we go. Play. All right. Sorry. I don't know why it died. Innovation, right? Let's think about innovation in gaming. Stalker is not innovating, in my opinion. No. It's optimizing in a way, right? It's a good game. It's optimizing what Fallout and the previous Stalkers didn't do well. Ultimately, was the shooting component. I never really felt like it was good. I mean, some people probably did, but I never liked that. And obviously, there's not the same kind of shooting with VATS and stuff like that. And there's not really accuracy in the Fallout world. But like this Stalker did really optimize like the shooting experience and then brought forward the same component and cool stuff about the RPG side. Liar's Bar, what it reminds me of, did anybody ever play the, what was it, Night at the, it's the Steam game. It's the Valve game. Night at the, I gotta look it up. It reminds me a lot of Night at the, oh God, I can't remember the name. I don't want to screw up our browser here. I'll look it up on my laptop. What was it called? Night at the, because it had like the Penny Arcade folks in it. Night at the, it doesn't even come up anymore. Did they take it down? Night at the Inventory. Poker Night at the Inventory. Maybe it's not even available any longer. Is it? No, it's there. Oh no, it's no longer available in the Steam store. I didn't know that. Okay. Anyhow, it was a single player game, and it was from Telltale Games, but it was kind of like a Valve. They worked with Valve. They worked with like the Penny Arcade guys. It wasn't a Valve game, sorry. It was Telltale Games, but it was Valve characters from like what's their one game? Team Fortress. And then there was the Penny Arcade folks. There was the Superbad, right? Character. And Sam and Max. And it kind of reminds me a lot of that. Although it was a single player game at the time. Now they could have basically taken the same game, made it multiplayer, and it would have been very much like Liar's Bar in that sense. But I think Liar's Bar did something cool. They took that kind of like environment, they took that kind of like design, but they made it like a multiplayer experience, and really tied that heavily to the games that they were throwing in there. So that's a really cool like overall idea. So I really like Liar's Bar. Did it really do a lot of innovation? Possibly, but maybe not. Satisfactory, I think we were talking about that. Very cool game. Cool idea with the manufacturing, the automation, kind of setting things in motion, letting it run through, optimizing things. And that one's, a little bit different than some of the others I had seen. I forget the original one that did that, but it was very 2D. Man, I hear the wind really blowing out there. If I lose power, this will be the horrible beginning to Festivus. But I like Satisfactory as an idea. I really like Balatro, taking the roguelike components, kind of flipping around like how poker plays, where it's, almost like a, it's almost turning it into like a video poker, but it's almost like solitaire in a way. I think that they've really done a good job with that. And I can see why people like that game. Helldivers 2, I think the ability to play team modes, to have like a real live director of the game is a huge component. Like actually a person making adjustments to the game as it's being played. I just don't think they went far enough with it. Helldivers 2 is also fantastic. I agree. All right. Yep. You gonna head to bed, Steve? No worries. I appreciate you hanging out for this long. I know that we were doing this in the middle of the week. Merry Christmas to you as well. Yeah, Christmas Eve tomorrow. Hope you have a good one. I'll definitely be up on Saturday doing another Fog Versus, so hopefully you can make it then. But otherwise, man, have a good one. Have a good holiday. Helldivers 2, like I said, I like it. I think that they could have went a little bit further. I think they could have had more events going on. They could have been having a director kind of run, because back in the day, Left 4 Dead had the AI director. Well, I don't know if they called it AI back then, but it was more or less when it saw you doing better, it threw more enemies at you. I kind of thought that was pretty cool. Okay, Steve, have a good holiday. See ya. But I think Helldivers 2 did a good job kind of taking that idea. Hopefully, season 1, 2, 4, whatever they're going to count it as, however they're going to do it, hopefully they start to expand that and really utilize that influence, maybe not day by day, but maybe week by week. I think that's how they were running it. But like in special events and things like that, I don't think they had enough of those. But very cool concept. Very cool idea. The original Helldivers, I wasn't a super fan of it, but Helldivers 2 definitely like that far better. So I think it's really hard in this one. While I don't necessarily know if there was super innovation in any of this, I think that there was really cool concepts that were brought to light and actually did well. Like most of these games sold really well. Maybe not. I'd probably say the one that sold the most out of all of this is potentially Balatro, just given the amount of visibility it's gotten for the past couple weeks, or past couple months, because of being, thrown into the mix. Lots of people finding it. Also having the Game Awards with Jeff Keighley being in there and kind of getting the controversy going that people just didn't see why it was there. And then they looked deeper into it. I think that probably really kind of boosted the sales of Balatro. But I'd got to say that probably Helldivers 2 was right behind that, if not ahead of it. Satisfactory's done very well. Liar's Bar, I think, given the price point it's at, it's probably done pretty well, and the popularity. And Soccer 2, just of course the hype around that game coming out, and the overall positive vibes and experience with it. I don't know. I think I gotta give it to. I don't know. I think I gotta give it to Helldivers. I think there's a lot of potential there, in being kind of this games as a service, but not games as a service. It's kind of floating in this safety position where I think PlayStation's going to, or Sony's going to, give it more push. Let's see. Outstanding Visual Awards. Another tough one. And this, if you were to tell me like Ghost of Tsushima was in this, I was probably going to say, well, Ghost of Tsushima, but given Silent Hill 2 looks amazing, especially with a 4090, or anything that you can crank the graphics all the way up. Nine Souls, it's got its own unique look. Metaphor, very unique, right, in that sense, kind of very Persona-esque. Neva, I'm not familiar with. I take it's a Metroidvania. Just in kind of like what I'm, maybe not a Metroidvania, but like a platforming adventure game. And then of course Hades 2, I do have that one. The original Hades being kind of that top-down roguelike experience. It's really unique, and Hades 2 is just more of that. But it's not done yet, right, in that sense. I don't think there's going to be anything visually changing. And the game plays like it's already, full release. I don't know. It's tough. You guys may want to help out on this one, because I'm kind of stuck between, right now, Metaphor and Hades 2. Those are the two that I'm kind of like leaning towards. Although Silent Hill 2 looks amazing. And it does look amazing when you get like the volumetric fog and the ray tracing and the city streets and the rain puddles and all that stuff. Looks fantastic. I just don't know. I'm kind of like in between. And I might even consider like Hades 2, Metaphor, and Silent Hill. Thinking about it again. It's a tougher one. I know a lot of people like Silent Hill. I don't know if a lot of people played Metaphor that watch the channel. I know a lot of people played Metaphor, but I don't know if a lot of people played Metaphor who jump in the Fog Versus or watch the channel in general, I don't hear a lot of people talk about it. But I know it was a decent RPG, 60 plus hours. A lot of people like the story. It's a heavy RPG in comparison to everything else here. Like where Silent Hill's not even that. And I always sit there, and this is one thing that I fight with, is I don't want to constantly vote for the same game. Like I try to spread it out, even though that might not be the way that it should go. Like I've already voted for Silent Hill on the soundtrack. Like voting for it on a visual award, it deserves it, but it's also like Metaphor had such an interesting look, as well as like Hades 2. And even this Nevia, which I haven't seen. You're slowly working through Metaphor. Yeah, I mean, it's a big RPG, right? I kind of figured, Mako, as you might be playing it. Just in general, like being an RPG fan. Because you really can't miss it, right? Like if you're really into like extensive RPGs, I think that you're going to, any of the Final Fantasies or anything like that, you're going to consider Metaphor the same. Like in line with that. Or any of the Personas. I know my kids played all the Personas. And they've always loved it. They haven't played Metaphor though. I got it for them while they were in college. While they were at college. They came back for the holiday break. They still hadn't played it yet. So I don't know. Maybe it's just the amount of time they have to dedicate it is going to be, kind of like you're saying, slowly working through it. It's not going to be something that you can spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks running, knock it out, and, wait for the DLC or whatever's going to come next on the expansion. Hades 2, though, for what it looks like, it just runs on everything perfectly. I think it'll do like 240 FPS on the Steam Deck. Maybe not 240. Probably like 144 to 200 at least on the Steam Deck. The game just runs so well. And so did the original Hades. It was the same way. If you kill the frame limiter and turn that TDP all the way up, man, that game just will fly. With very little stuttering. Like it doesn't even stutter. I mean, very little drop in FPS. So for what they do, like visually, it's impressive how well the game is optimized. I'm going to probably say, though, I'm really leaning to the tech side on this, and I'm really leaning to like the experience I had playing it on my PC rig. Silent Hill 2 just looks fantastic. Like it does. It just, the ray tracing in it is amazing. I wouldn't say you get the same experience on like the PC, the portable PCs like Steam Deck and stuff like that, but on a, like Lowrad's got a 4090, like a PC rig, it just looks so good. Character, I don't know, the guy, he looks a little funky to me. Something about just the way his body and his head proportion is, it just looks off a little bit, or maybe it's his hair proportion to his face. It just seems a little odd in some instances, but I'm going to go with Silent Hill. I am. Although I think this, Metaphor looks really good. I think that just all the stuff they're doing within Silent Hill, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go with that. Another vote for Silent Hill. Better with Friends. Now we're about halfway through, so we can crank this out by 10:30. Then everybody can get on their way. I'm gonna say here, Power World was the outstanding, like out of the blue kind of title. Didn't expect, although Helldivers 2, it's all based around like teams. You can still play it single. You can do any of these single player, but I mean like. I know Space Marines had an interesting option for co-op at the end of it and through the game, but it's just not my. like to continue on, right, from the story game, that there was even more to kind of go on. And I know that there's a lot in Satisfactory, all the cool things that you can put together. Power World just really caught me on the chin, so to speak. Like, I wasn't thinking that game was going to be anything. I thought it was going to be like this throwaway game that just was like really popular. But I know people that have played that for, man, 100 hours in a month, like, and just loved the game and just really threw everything into it. And they liked, the same people that I know played that way, you know, were huge into like Fallout 4 and all these other games. So it just really caught me off guard that like everybody was jumping into like this Pokemon clone in a way. I think it's really good. I like it. Sons of the Forest I did not care for so far. I don't know, maybe it'll change my mind. The Forest was a much better game in my opinion, but I played a lot more of the Forest. Just haven't really gotten in, and it ran really poor on the devices when I started playing Sons of the Forest. So I really didn't give it the chance that it needed. But I do know Satisfactory's got a good component, very similar to Power World in terms of like interest and like bringing people together to play. Helldivers is just about the drops, right? Like where you're playing, you're running, getting the stuff, amount of times you drop onto the planet, amount of time you get stuff, the upgrades you can do to your look and your weapons. I don't know. It's a tough one. Better with friends. I don't really know the best one with friends here. But I will say, I think if Power World, and I don't know if this is done yet, if they had the ability to do crossplay with servers, right? Like, because where the instance is not local on your device and you have to be online for everybody to play on your game. If they had it as a, like, more like an, not MMO experience, but more like Helldivers, where it was a shared instance in the cloud or on the server. Sorry. That might have been a little bit different. Yeah. It's tough. Anybody got any thoughts? Anything I should consider? Speaking of that, let me see. What's another grievance that I had down here with the industry? I think one of the main ones just to look at is the layoffs. Right? The layoffs have been a rough one for a lot of people. I think the industry did some things. They got so used to the success that we had during COVID that after we came out of it, there wasn't that same desire to play games. Like, people are still playing games, but they were able to get out of the house, so they're not playing as many games, right? In general. You played HD with random people and it was great. That's what I thought as well. That's a really good point. Like, you can play with randoms and it's a good experience. Except when they start calling in the nukes, right, on your position by accident. Or maybe on purpose. But it was a very fun game, and it was with anybody random. And you never played Satisfactory with friends. I never have either. I think maybe Helldivers does get that nod on it. You haven't played Sons in a long while. Yeah, the Forest is the one that I put a lot of time into. Yeah, I think Helldivers 2, really, that's like the benefit. Like, you could play with randoms and still have an amazing time. And that's really hard to find. Yeah, by accident's the quote in that one. Yeah. You never know. There were a lot of times where I thought people were just doing it on purpose. But I do think that, like, Helldivers 2, just that ability to, like, really have a good time with, like, random people, I think that gets the vote. That's a good point. I didn't think about that one. That wasn't, like, the first thing I considered. Let's see. Best Game on Steam Deck Award. This is a very close one to my heart. I do have a lot of experience with the damn Steam Deck. And I'll tell you this, out of all the games here, the best one that runs is Hades 2. Balatro falls very near to that, and I put far more time into Balatro than I have into Hades 2. I have a soft spot for those survivor games, the roguelike survivors. Deep Rock Galactic was one of my favorite ones. There's no doubt about that. I voted for Balatro, or I nominated Balatro, right? So I really like that. Rogue Trader, I kind of question that one. If I was going to say any other game, I would say like, I'm surprised, and I know the game that I did vote for on this, or nominate. Well, I thought about it. I should have nominated it. But if I was looking at like games that looked visually impressive on the Steam Deck and ran amazingly well, Lies of P is that game. Lies of P runs exceptionally well on Steam Deck. And it ran exceptionally well from the get-go. It was shocking how well that game ran. But like Rogue Trader is pretty interesting. Yeah, I played that. The only one I didn't play on the Steam Deck, but I played on the PlayStation, is God of War Ragnarok. And I kind of find it hard to believe that God of War Ragnarok is running as well as like Lies of P, for example, like something comparable in terms of like a third person kind of view, right? Type game with our higher res and all that stuff on PC. But I'm not going to discount because I have never played it on the Steam Deck. Could play really well. Rogue Trader played okay in general. I think it looked really good. But Hades 2 just really is shocking how well it plays. And how smooth it is on those small devices. But Balatro is super fun. I probably put out of the 60 hours or so that I put into Balatro this year, I definitely put that in on the Steam Deck. I never played it on PC rig or anything like that. And then when it came to mobile, I was playing it on the mobile phone. So I think I'm going to stick with Balatro. I think it is probably the best game for like Steam Deck. It's so addictive. It's so easy on the battery. You can play forever. It's got the touchscreen component. I use that a lot, funny enough. And that's why I played it on the mobile phone as well. I kind of like the ability to do that. So I think I got to go with Balatro. You do stream really well. Did I say stream or Steam? Oh, great streamer. Oh, yes. This is the annual Kick, or the weekly Kick one to sell followers. It's a big thing on Kick, funny enough. And I do appreciate it, young dad men, but no thank you. I do appreciate that. Well, I don't appreciate that. I do see a lot of people have to get views. They have to pay for it to get things going over there. Because I don't think they really care. It's kind of a weird thing on Kick. I don't know. I don't mind having it spread out. I don't like the things that they do over there. Like some of the stuff, right? Like there's a little less, control. And I think that's a good thing in one way, but you got to have extra places to stream. That's why I kind of stream on it. Not that I agree with like some of the things that go on with it. The gambling thing is like one of them. I work for a gambling company for a short contract, and I really wasn't impressed with them and the way that whole industry works. So to be kind of like the leader of the platform is gambling. It's not great. Yeah, this is not it's a grievance. Okay, yeah, it's a grievance. I wish that, they'd, kind of not sit there and work so much with the gambling companies and maybe do a little bit of pushback on that and kind of clean some things up with the racist remarks and stuff that go on over there. I think that they could do with a little bit of moderation. Although it probably does well because there isn't as much moderation, right? Like Twitch used to be a lot more like the rogue like platform to be on where you could do a lot of stuff. I think it's hard to get anybody to get any ad money over there. They're not going to live on ads. And maybe that's the truth. You don't want to live on ads. Maybe it is like, hey, getting funded by large corporations is going to be the way to go. I don't think it's necessarily the way that I want to see it go, but it could possibly be. I don't have a problem with, though, having other competitors in the market. That's why I kind of support it. But in general, yeah, I do have a little bit of a problem coming and working for gaming, a online casino business. Not casino, but online gambling. I think that there's a lot of that out there. And a lot of people spend a lot of money to get pulled into it. And I think it's easy to get pulled into it. I'm going to vote for Balatro. I'm going to stick to my guns on the nomination. Best game on Steam Deck, for sure. The Labor of Love. This is the annual one. They should just call it the annual No Man's Sky Award. Or at least nominee award. Did I nominate? No, I didn't nominate them this year. I forget who I nominated. That's, again, like what sucks where you can't remember. Elden Ring, I don't think really deserves to be in this. I think that all they did was they put out an expansion like they always do for every game. It wasn't really surprising that the Erd Tree came. The one surprising thing is like the Night Rain expansion / DLC coming, but it's not even available. It was announced. So I think that you really can't go off of that. Stardew, I mean, you got to give it to Concerned Abe. I mean, that guy worked in the Seattle theater downtown as like an usher or something like that while he made the game, right? I think he's it's not just him any longer, though. It is, a totally different thing now. They have support, publishers, and stuff like that. I'm sure he makes all the, executive decisions, but it's not like it's all being done by one person any longer. No Man's Sky, Hello Games, they do so much with that. They've just innovated and created stuff and, added things in. Did they do a lot of innovation? It's questionable. When they first announced the game and all the stuff that they were going to do, that was innovative. But a lot of other companies have done similar things with their games. I still think Hello Games, though, they get it because they never charge for any more. Right? They still get that nod of like, okay, you've screwed up years ago, 8 years ago now, but all they did to go back and make up for that, no other company, I think, would have done that. I'm sorry. I don't think there's anybody else out there on the planet that would have done what they did. Even if they saw revenues, a publisher would have turned around and said, you know what? We can make a couple other games, spin those up. We'll put this one on life support. We'll sell and make money on it, but we won't do anything with it. And then we'll, use that to leapfrog onto the next project. And they just didn't do that. Whether or not they had another plan, I know they got the new game coming out, but there's very few. I think the one that I've nominated was actually The Long Dark. Because The Long Dark is another one. The folks at Hinterland, they do a hell of a lot of work on that game. Now, granted, it's gone on for 10 years, and I don't even know. They just did a whole new thing for it. I haven't checked it out, but it's getting a little bit long in the tooth, but they continue to work on that, and it's literally like a labor of love for them. The guy that runs that studio, I know they all kind of run it now, but he says that, but is it Ralph, I think, up there? I can't think of his last name, but he came from, I think, EA, and he wanted to really I had a chance to meet him a long time ago when he first got the game out. And he was really humble about everything. Really nice, super nice guy. He did have one falter, and I argued with him about it on Twitter and stuff like that when I used to worry about that stuff. And it was his issue around people being able to play the game on NVIDIA's GeForce Now, that online streaming service. He wanted a cut initially. And NVIDIA, when they launched it, it was really in its infancy. It kind of broke a lot of rules. And they basically just copied the games or had copies of the game that you owned in your library, and they would allow you just to kind of like sync your Steam library and then play your games online. Now, streaming, and it's still not necessarily the biggest thing people do, but it's getting there. Back then, it was really cool, and NVIDIA was allowing you to play your entire like Steam library. But then the publishers kind of got their 2 cents into it, and the developers, and they were like, hey, we're not getting any money off of this, and this is a new platform. And that's what pissed me off about it. And that's where I went after the Hinterland guy, because he made it that it was another platform when it was still just a PC, the same PC build, and it was still the same game that I bought, that he wasn't allowing me to play on a streaming service that was running off of essentially just another computer that only I had access to, which would be the same thing as in my house, me running it on another computer that I only have access to. So I got into it with him about that. And that was my biggest like problem with the Hinterland folks, was his leadership in that moment really sucked and was the wrong direction. And he changed directions. Now, whether or not he got some money from NVIDIA or not, I don't know. NVIDIA kind of had to change a little bit of that. They started charging for it. It's still free in most cases if you want to try it. But they started charging a little bit for it at the higher end stuff, because you get to use like 4090s and stuff like that. But they really don't pass a lot of that cost down. What they did was they started to take some of those revenues and pay the developers a rental fee or whatever they were considering. I don't even know if they have to pay anybody. I think that's what ultimately they did, was they negotiated deals with each game developer as it goes. But they may have also done it in a different way. They may have done it at a level of like Epic, where if you're working on their, not necessarily their engine, but with their cards, they may have you sign away some license that is in perpetuity to use that. And in turn, you get some marketing or something like that, right? Like there's probably this, what you would call it in the industry is soft money rather than hard dollars that goes on. I don't think there's a lot of hard dollars transacting on this thing, but I think there's still soft dollars kind of moving around, and developers get something out of it by publicity, visual representation, marketing dollars, things like that. So I think that, and maybe even hardware and stuff. I think that that's kind of the play that happened there, but that's a long story. The Long Dark, though, the game is awesome. There's no doubt about it. But I think it's another one that kind of falls in that like Hello Games, No Man's Sky world. Dota 2, I mean, Valve just keeps pumping into that. It's got a huge following still. I mean, it does have the annual like Dota championship, right? Like, how many games do that? Not many. I mean, its main competitor does, but I mean, in general, like not many do the effort and the prizing that they do for that game. So it's really hard to say that they do that they don't really support the communities in the game. Baldur's Gate 3, I mean, I know they've been doing updates to it and they're not charging for them. I think that's kind of, again, along the lines of No Man's Sky. Maybe in a couple years, if they're still doing the same kind of stuff that No Man's Sky is doing, like, you know, you mentioned, Mako, as the VR, the online, the ability to bring in, you know, whole new worlds, building, underwater, revamping outside the Earth, you know, or outside the planet kind of revamps, like the starships, the redoing of like the space stations. Just they've continued to do it and they don't get any more money out of it. I think that I think I have a soft spot for it, but I'm going to vote for No Man's Sky still. I think there's so much that go around it that goes around it for me that I think that that's an impressive feat. VR. VR is interesting. How many people have VR here? I take it you do, Mako, since you've mentioned that you've tried it, or maybe you've had a chance to try it somewhere. I can tell you, VR for me mainly consists of VR on the Meta Quest 3 now. Two reasons for that. I was really heavily into VR when it first came out. I had like the HTC Vive and loved that, showed it to everybody. The cable really got in my way, all the cables, all the setup, everything like that. Meta did a great job getting rid of that stuff. Or you know, what was it called? Was it Quest? Was it always Quest? I forget. You have the PSVR 1, 2, and the Quest 2. Awesome. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I've got the PSVR 1, PSVR 2, and I have the Quest 3 now because I did an upgrade. I do like the PSVR 2 in terms of like the cool capabilities they've added, like watching your eyes blink. That's really wild in like some of the games. But mainly because I got rid of my PS5 because I thought I was going to get a PS5 Pro, but I haven't done that. I don't really play the PSVR too much, and I have never hooked it up to my PC yet because I have like a Wi-Fi 6 that I can use just wirelessly in my house with the Quest 3, which is amazing. I just can't get over that. Merry Christmas to you, Fixstar, and Happy New Year. Thanks for stopping in. Fixstar's been on the channel since, man, I think, I don't even know when, 7 years ago? That's when they started watching it. It's crazy. But like the Quest 3, for example, I can just use it on the Wi-Fi 6 network, no wires. It can run right into my gaming PC, just fire up Steam. It's a fantastic device. And I know this isn't about the devices, but I mean, that's where I do a lot of the VR gaming. Plus, you can take it with you. Funny story, another funny story. I ended up leaving my Quest 3 in Las Vegas at the airport. I like completely walked away. I left it on the conveyor belt, didn't think about it. I had taken it down because I was doing that contract work for that company down there in the gambling side. And basically it was my last day. I was coming back. I was at the airport early, wasn't thinking. I took it out because I was doing some recording for it down there while I was working because I never went to the casinos. I would just go to the office, do work, go back to the hotel, and do recordings. And I left it on the conveyor belt, walked away, sat and ate for 2 hours, got on the plane, remembered halfway to Seattle that I had my Quest with me and I didn't have it any longer. And I thought, oh, for sure that thing's gone. It's not coming back. Like there's no way that it sat in the security area and somebody didn't pick it up and like it didn't go home with somebody, right? Kind of thing. And I was like, okay, well, what I'm going to do is just wipe it out because you can wipe them out from wherever from your phone. So I wiped all the stuff off of it so they wouldn't have credit card information or have my account or anything. And I thought, well, I'll look on, what is it? Not McCarran, Harry Reid International Airport or whatever's like thing if they have a lost and found. And I put in this thing saying, hey, I left my headset there. It was this. It looks like this. Has 2 controllers, never thinking that I would get any answer back. Surprisingly, like 2 days later, because it was going into the weekend. 2 days later, I hear back from the folks from the Lost and Found, and they're like, can you tell us like the security number of it or, some kind of number on it or something like that? And I sent it back to them. I said, here's all the information. Here's the device. Here's what I showed them a picture. And they're like, yep, we've got it. And I'm like, oh my God, sweet. How do I get it? And they're like, well, you got to pay for shipping. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. Because it was like a $500 device. And it ended up costing me like $50 to get it shipped back. Took 2 days. I was thinking like, it's not going to come complete. Something's going to be missing. Everything was there. No harm, no foul. Back in my hands. I was blown away. I never thought I'd see it again. Because I used it for recording too, it was kind of a business expense. So I was like, man, that contract ended. I was like out of money, not out of money, but I was like not in the mood to spend $500 more. Yeah, so it all worked out. Yeah, it was surprising. I was really shocked, Mako. I really was. But as soon as I got back, I started doing recordings and stuff like that. But that's my experience. Is like, basically that device, because you can play it without a PC or you can hook it to the PC. So I didn't play a lot because I was traveling with it this year. I didn't play a lot of games that you could easily play on there. I only played the ones that were available. So I think I missed a few of these. I played the Five Nights at Freddy's. I've never played Maestro or is it Davigo or the Blade and Sorcery. Metro I did get a chance to check out. I don't own it, but I got a chance to check it out. And I really like that. And I do have to go with Metro. That's why I nominated. I was like, man, that thing was impressive. And now it's kind of a shame because is it Alien Rogue Incursion? Right? Is that the one? Aliens Rogue. Let me pull it up. Is it available on Steam? I know it's on PlayStation 5. Alien Rogue Incursion. It looks like it's available on Steam too. I'm really surprised they didn't have that available because it did come out in 2025. I think that one would be really cool because horror has always been like the genre that I felt like this is where VR wins, hands down. If you love horror, you're going to love this game. But Metro, I think, is really amazing, and it's a great game. And again, it falls in line with Stalker, right? Same idea. You need to get Alien and Metro. I think Metro is the way to go before Aliens, but I think they're both good. The only problem I have with the Alien one, it's not available on the MetaQuest 3 yet, or MetaQuest at all. So I'm probably going to wait until February when it does come out. They have to push it back for some reason. I'll probably get it on there, just on the off chance I'm traveling or doing something. But Metro is available on both. I imagine it looks better on Steam, but I can't verify that. The one that I played was on the Quest when I checked it out. So I'm definitely going to be picking that one up myself, but I will vote for it here as well because I think it was really impressive. Mako, did you ever play the oh man, what's it called? It's from that franchise. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 minute. I can see it. I can picture it in my head. I just can't think of the name. Until Dawn. The Until Dawn roller coaster games. What was it? Until Dawn. Oh, I can't remember the name of them. There's two. There's the one for the PlayStation 1 VR and the one for the PlayStation 2 VR. And that one does like the blinking component. Like it sees your eyes blinking and it causes things to happen in game. Those were two of my favorite games ever on VR. Like I think hands down, they are super intense. They can give you that sickening feeling. Like some people, if you can't handle VR, but they are really intense and like you can feel like things are going on in the game. Like you're on a roller coaster. It gives you that sensation, which it really blew me away. And then there's the whole shooting component and all that. What was it? Like Until Dawn. Oh, why can't I think of it? Until Dawn VR games. And this leads me to, before we get into our last game, or the game of the year, this leads me to my last grievance, VR as a whole. VR, the industry has just used it like a redhead stepchild, right? Like they just did not take care of it. Switchback. Yeah, that's the one for the PS2, or the PS VR 2 was Switchback. And then there was, what's the other one? Rush of Blood. So Rush of Blood was the other one. I played a lot of Rush of Blood. Switchback I do own, but again, only played it for maybe like 10 hours. And then I got onto other things. I was doing some other stuff on VR and other recordings. And then I didn't ultimately get, I got rid of the PlayStation 5 and I haven't gotten the new one. If I'm ever going to get it, I don't know. I'm probably just going to hold off, wait for the Switch 2, because I traded my PS5 and the Xbox One X in when they were doing like an amazing deal. I got like $600 for both of them total. And I'm just going to put that to the Switch 2. But eventually, I'll either take my kids' PS5 when they get a PS6 or something like that and use it for the VR. But I did like the PlayStation VR. I thought they did a good job. But VR, as a grievance, PlayStation didn't play a good hand in this. Then none of these guys should have tried to own VR because it's a brand new freaking platform. And there should never have been exclusives. I know that doesn't play well into publishers or the games industry as a whole or consoles, but for a new platform with such a unique technology that nobody is sure of, nobody needed to have exclusives, and it continues on till today, and they should not be doing that. VR should be something that's put into the same kind of category as like Bluetooth. Bluetooth. The reason why every device on the freaking planet has Bluetooth is because the company that came up with it, Ericsson, in Sweden, said this is going to be the biggest thing that will help communication grow. And we're going to put it in a consortium with Nokia and all these other competitors, and we're going to give the technology and make it something that everybody can gain off of, rather than keeping it and trying to have it only on their devices. And that's why everything in the world has Bluetooth. I worked for them at that time, and I remember them talking about that because we were the first Bluetooth headset in the world. And they looked at it, and they saw such an advantage of this. At that time, they called it a PAN, a personal area network, that they said, you know what? For this to grow the way it needs to grow, it needs to be everybody's technology. And that's what they did. I think VR should have been the same thing. Sony screwed it up. Meta's not doing any favors for it. They should all be working together, and they should put it in the hands of somebody unified that's not in anybody's, that they all fund, that's not in one specific pocketbook. And that's where VR should sit and incubate. I know incubation's funny, but still, I don't think there's more than 50 million units total in the world outside of mobile phones, because I know there were Galaxy phones that you could put them in a VR headset, and there was tens of millions of each of those. But let's just say standalone VR devices that make the difference. I don't think there's 50 million units in the world of all of them. Maybe there are, but it's still dwarfed in terms of the technology. And the devs that work on it put a lot into it, and they get very low return. And it's just this convoluted mess, right? Steam and Meta are probably the two that are the best at it. They've actually built environments to sell within the headset. Sony doesn't need to do that, but they definitely don't have that either. But in terms of like the device and the environment that you play in, being the place that you also transact in, being the place that you also find new content in and new games, Steam and Meta both have that. And I really think Steam should be kind of the purveyor of it. And then they should get funding from Meta and everybody else to continue to support it. But they should also support heavily the Meta devices, the standalone devices and stuff like that. I don't know. It's really hard to say, but I still think that the way that Bluetooth grew is the way that VR should be grown, rather than one company trying to have the best exclusive games and a unique environment and only the games that are available on that. You can only play the games for it on that environment. It's not big enough for that right now. It just doesn't work. So I guess that's my last grievance is VR. It's been treated horribly and has not grown much over the past probably year to 2 years, if not 3. All right, that's enough of that. Fan blowing on your way, cut back on the motion sickness. Yeah, I agree with you. There is, there's the whole idea. You can only, I know people that can play for unlimited amount of time. Like they don't have any effect. My top end is probably 2 hours, I would probably say. And then there's people like a friend of mine and my wife. If you were to put that on them within a minute, they would get sick. They're like in that 20% of people that can't do it. So that already is working against VR, right? When 20% of an audience just flat out can't use the device, that becomes problematic, but it doesn't end anything. You can work around it. And I know the technology and the devs have been working around that for years with the higher frame rates, the tunnel vision that they've been building into it to kind of limit down exposure to the eyes and the brain. Sounds, I know, is another one. I forget all the other things that they've gone through. And then the advice is always don't play it until you're sick. When you start to feel that way, take it off because your body will think it's a bad thing and you will be less likely to use it, right? If you feel like it makes you sick every time. So like if your limit is an hour and a half, only play for an hour, right? That's the best thing that you can do. Haven't played in a while, but your tolerance was built up. Doesn't hit you too hard. Yeah, you're more like me. Buddy of mine that I used to do a podcast with, his name's Brooks. He went through and played all of Resident Evil 8, like literally in one sitting or 2 sittings almost. So like 15-hour experience. I know he did Resident Evil 7, although that was a bad experience. It wasn't really great because you had that controller instead of the wands and all that stuff. I forget the other one that he played that was super long. There was another one, but like he can do this unlimited amount of time. Like it doesn't bother him. He can sit there for 8 hours, 10 hours and play a game in VR, full running, like full locomotion, not the, teleportation or anything like that, which I can't do that, but I still love it. Right. And, that's probably similar to you, right? In that sense, like it's interesting enough to continue to play. So that's my final grievance to complain about. If anybody else has any, throw them out there. Anything else you don't like about the gaming industry right now? But we've got one more game to vote on here. And I think this really comes down to, I don't know. There's a lot here, right? Like there's not a PlayStation game in this one. And it's not like there's a paid scenario, which I know that floats around a lot. Like, did Astro Bot deserve to win Game of the Year across everything else that it was up against? I don't know. I liked Astro Bot. I think Astro Bot's a great character. I think it's a great game. And I don't think there's any problem of a platformer winning and Balatro winning it either, right? Like both of those, like a very casual, like low graphically less intensive game. That's not even the way. Like not even, it's not deficient, but it's just like almost pixel art graphic style game winning. Doesn't surprise me either. Both of those could win, as could Black with Wukong, as could Helldivers, or whatever it was up against. I can't remember all the games in the actual like Jeff Keighley Game Awards. But to me, I mean, I got to think like Stalker 2 really, really hits high on that. You think Balatro is going to win Nothing Self? I'll tell you that too. I really think Balatro is good. I do. And I think Steam, it definitely goes, Steam's a more suited environment for Balatro to win than most. I don't even know if Apple or Google Play would be as suited for Balatro to win as Steam is. Because over there, the games, most likely you're playing more free-to-play games over there or microtransaction games where Balatro is $9.99 up front. So it automatically is impacted on mobile by that one component. But on Steam, it's not. Like Steam, truly, I think Balatro kind of has its audience and can win. I think Stalker 2 definitely has the ability to win as well, because I think you have such a huge fan base of Fallout that resides on PC that this is like Fallout 5, right? For most people. Better shooting, engagement, maybe not the exact quirkiness of like Fallout, but it still resides really well. Space Marines 2, a lot of Warhammer folks out there. I think Rogue Trader may have been the one that would have got the nod before Space Marines 2 to a lot of Warhammer fans. But Space Marines 2 is great. Helldivers 2 is really cool. Like I said, I don't play tons of multiplayer though. Just given that I'm doing other things, recording single player stuff, dealing with Starlink, not the greatest thing in the world in terms of speed of internet and all that, reliability, but it's getting there. But Helldivers 2 is more of a multiplayer. Black Myth Wukong, I think it shows that Chinese developers have the ability to make games that are interesting for any audience, which for a while they were not getting that representation, right, within the I don't know, North America region, we'll say. Maybe Europe was still kind of like, getting into it, but like within North America or the Americas, it wasn't necessarily the biggest traction they were gaining. But Black Myth Wukong did a huge advancement for that, right? In terms of like being able to localize a game based upon, lore from another country that is not known to many Americans, right? Or North Americans, or South Americans, maybe. I think it did a good job, and it definitely did it in a way that we were really interested in, which is kind of the Souls-like component. So it's tough to say. I mean, I can tell you out of all of these, the one I played the most is Balatro. And I've played all of them. I don't think I would ever play through Space Marine again. I don't think I'd play through Stalker again. And I don't think I would play through Black Myth Wukong again. Maybe one more playthrough. Stalker 2, it would depend, right? Like how far I got into it. I played through multiples of Fallouts. I can say that. Of like Fallout 3, I played it like 3 or 4 times through. Played Fallout New Vegas 3 or 4 times all the way through. Fallout 4 at least 2 times. I want to say Fallout 76 I continued to play after we were able to launch the nuke early on in the life of it. But Balatro, I can probably say, like, I've told family members to play that game. It was that good. And I got to say, I think I would probably do it again. Like, I think that I'll be playing Balatro for a long time to come. So I'm going to go to Balatro. I'm going to vote for it. I think that's how I look at it. Like, that's a true game of the year to me, is like me introducing it to people that don't play video games and saying, like, this is like one that you will like. And I think that's like the benefit of it, like the unique component of it. So I think it's almost 10:30. We've been on for 2 hours. I don't want to take everybody's time up. Appreciate all of you who tuned in. Thank you so much. I hope everybody had a great Festivus and you have a happy Christmas, holiday, Hanukkah, all Kwanzaa, all the other ones. Russian Christmas? No, what's the thing? I forget what there is, but it's like later in January. All of those, right? Everybody, whoever you support, whatever you support. I hope you have a good holiday with your families and all that stuff. Yeah, nothing self. That's correct. Happy holidays. Appreciate everybody being here. And definitely, I will be back on Saturday So we'll be doing another Russian Orthodox. That's what I was thinking. Not Russian necessarily, but Russian Orthodox. I hope everybody has a great holiday. I hope you all enjoy that. I'll be back Saturday with a new game. I'm still working through it. I will be right now. If you've noticed on the channel pages and all that stuff, I've got kind of the logos for Happy Holidays and stuff like up, and they'll probably stay up until the 26th. I'll take all that down like I do with all my decorations with my wife, and then we'll put up the game that's going to be Saturday's game and all of that stuff. Right now I'm running a live stream on 24-hour live stream just for like a, kind of like the fireplace and music and all that stuff playing in the background, things like that. That will be going on until midnight. And then there's going to be something added to it. So there'll be a Christmas game added into it. So it'll be kind of like that. So that'll be running for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. It might be interesting if you guys want to check it out. I think the music will run, like when you see the fireplace, it runs for about 45 minutes. And then the game starts and it runs for about an hour and 5 minutes or something like that. And it'll just keep repeating. So if you want to check that out, it'll be a surprise. It starts at midnight. And that'll be on that same live stream. It won't even come down. It's just going to be added in, and then it'll start playing it. In that specific time. And then after that, on the 26th, that channel will flip over to Retro Games 24/7. So it'll be just different retro games playing 24/7, 24 hours, 7 days a week. And then there'll be a modern one that kicks off as well. But I'm not sure if I'm going to do that then, or I'm maybe going to launch that one on November or January 1st. That might be January 1st for the modern one. And it'll have games like Silent Hill 2, Alone in the Dark, the new one, stuff like that. Goose Game, some other games like that, right? Like all modern games for like PC that'll run 24/7. But then we'll still do the live streams on Saturdays, and then live streams for different games that launches. I'm waiting for like the new year for the new games to start launching so we can do those. But yeah, lots of exciting stuff. Appreciate everybody that's here all the time supporting. Hope you guys all have a good holiday. Thank you for all the bits and the Prime subs and everything like that. Appreciate that from everybody. It's good to talk to all you folks. Lorette, if you're still here, I'm going to reach out to you. We still got to grab lunch. I know I got busy with a funeral and had to go back and be on the East Coast for a while. I think I had mentioned that to you when we had last talked. So, yeah, let's try to do something. But appreciate it, everybody. Have a good holiday. I'll talk to you Saturday, if not before then. All right. See ya.